Alright, guys. Paramount got me.
Did they do the knee thing?
Well, he's walking, so I think he's fine.
Well, yeah, my knees are okay, but someone did spray paint the words "You're dead" on the side of my car. Unclear if that's them or not.
That could be anybody.
Exactly, but Paramount has officially made it clear that if I want to keep doing my series on Are You Afraid of the Dark, they do not want me to use clips from the show, or else they will copyright, strike it, and also, pull it down in basically any territory that speaks English. So that really cuts down the audience.
But don't the other videos all use clips?
So that's true. I do use clips in the earlier episodes, but the past 3 or 4, I've had to cut and re-upload and re-edit and just do it over and over and over again because I will upload it. YouTube says it's fine, and then 3 days later, I get a copyright notice from Paramount saying that this will not be able to play in the US or Canada. And that is like 80% of the people that watch the channel, so that doesn't work. That's not going to fly for me. So with that being said, we're taking all the scripts, throwing it out the window, and we're going to try something brand new.
You wrote scripts? I thought we were just talking.
You may have been just talking, but I take my job very seriously. So let's get started with the first episode of Season 2, The Tale of the Final Wish. It's the story of a young girl that's obsessed with fairy tales and then ultimately makes a wish that was ill-timed. And sure, we've seen it before, but have we seen it with a realm full of floating bodies? I don't think we have. At least not yet. And I mean, maybe we won't, because I can't use a clip of it. Anyway, let's just throw it to the other thing. Normally we would start the clips here, but with the clip restriction, I'm kind of in a jam. So let me just give you a rundown. At the meeting of the Midnight Society, Kristen is reading a book of fairy tales where all the other kids kind of say they're lame and boring without really giving her a chance to defend herself. So what she does is she tells the story of the tale of the final wish. In the story, we have a girl named Jill who looks like this, and she's obsessed with fairy tales and unicorns and, little girl stuff, but she's 13 years old, so she's a little old for that. And Jill's family is kind of mean to her about that. Her parents want her to kind of grow up and take on more responsibility, and her brother is more of like a tough love approach to it. It doesn't really stick, though. So I can kind of understand Jill's family here. I mean, they're just giving her some tough love, and her brother's specifically telling her that if she doesn't drop the kiddie stuff, she's going to be a social outcast.
Nothing crazy about that.
Maybe they could be less angry about it.
Not until Jill is at the library with her friends, and while Jill is checking out books of new fairy tales, her friends are checking out boys. And Jill doesn't really get that. So when she sits back down with her friends, the boy they were checking out comes over and starts talking to Jill. This makes her friends very jealous, and they pull out all of her fairy tale books and toys and make fun of her for being childish in front of the boy, which causes Jill to kind of get up and run away embarrassed. I can't believe her friends would sell her out like that, just to talk to a boy.
Teenage girls are cruel.
How would you know?
I was a teenage clown once upon a time.
Really? I was always a mask. And he never talked to girls.
They're scary! Shut up! How do you even know that? Anyway, that night Jill dreams about the boy from the library and wakes up to her brother pranking her again. While she gets up and pushes him out the door, she takes a moment to longingly stare out the window and wish on a shooting star that she was in a fairy tale story and everybody would just leave her alone. After this little bit of exposition, she wakes up again from a nightmare. This time when she goes to find her parents, she can't find anybody in the house at all, so she goes back to her bedroom and looks under her bed where she finds 90s comedian Bobcat Goldthwait. And if you're not familiar with the stylings of comedian Bobcat, it's basically just this.
This is a true story. I got done with my performance one night, and this woman came up to me and said, "Oh, I really liked your act. Would you like to come over to my house and do some cocaine?"
Pretty brutal, right?
It's like he's trying not to throw up.
He sounds like if a frog became a man.
Exactly. All of that. Well, Bobcat sucks this girl into a portal where she's transported to a world full of clocks and sleeping floating people and sand. This is where Bobcat introduces himself as the Sandman, and this is his home, the land of Nod. Jill is kind of confused on why she's here, but he lets her know that when she wished on that shooting star, it was a very real and very legally binding wish for her to be in a fairy tale and everybody to just kind of leave her alone.
So, she got what she wanted.
Not really. She pretty explicitly says that's not at all what she wants, and she wants to go home. But the Sandman tells her there's no takebacks, so she's stuck. She tries to run away, and there's a bunch of doors that all lead to different fairy tales, but every single one she opens was another story wanting to kill her. I have no idea why the Sandman wants to keep a 13-year-old girl in his home, but he is pretty adamant about it.
Yeah, that raises some questions.
That's probably the scariest part of all this.
Anyway, eventually Jill does find her friends and family sleeping in the land of Nod, but no matter what she does, she can't wake them up. So she runs all the way back to the Sandman's room and threatens to break his stuff if he doesn't let her go home. And at this point, the Sandman's just confused mostly because he's doing exactly what she wanted.
To be fair, he was just making her wish come true.
Would anyone wish to spend their time with a guy named Bobcat?
The Sandman tells her that fairy tales don't change, so even if she breaks his stuff, it's all written, it's all going to happen anyway. And Jill decides to call his bluff and smashes his giant hourglass anyway, and this seems to undo the whole spell and puts her back in the portal, back into her own bed.
So he was lying. You can't trust the Bobcat.
I still think she was in the wrong here.
Jill wakes up screaming in her own bed, and this time her family actually shows up to comfort her. She tells her family that she's not really interested in being in a fairy tale anymore and decides to kind of grow up just a little bit and stop doing that. And she just goes back to sleep after that. However, after she falls asleep, the wind from the window knocks open the Sandman book and turns all the way to the last page, where it's revealed that everything that just happened the way that it was written in the book. And nothing changed. And it says the end at the end.
So does she not exist now?
Yeah, if the story ended, what is he gonna do?
Well, the story ended, but in the episode it's kind of implied that the Sandman's not done with the story because it kind of ends with a creepy laugh, which to me just kind of feels like a lazy tacked on cliffhanger.
It's sequel bait.
They don't make sequels to these.
It's probably just a production note to make the episode feel scarier because honestly, not really that scary. Anyway, back at the campfire, Kristen tells the kids that sometimes the stories are real, just not in the way you would expect. And then Frank and the rest of the kids are more interested in learning more about fairy tales, so they kind of thumb through the book that she found, and then it just kind of fades out to black and the story's over. So there we have it, fellas. First episode of season 2 in the books. You think Paramount's going to castrate me for showing still images of their 30-year-old TV show that they literally show no attention to?
We can only hope.
Hope for what? That's so vague.
He's just saying, yeah, totally.
What does that mean? Am I safe or not?
Now I'm not worried about it.
Doesn't really make me feel better.
For sure, man.
Okay, well, the Tale of the Final Wish kind of struck out a little bit by trying to get a guest star for the time, which probably did cost them a good amount of money. Believe it or not, Bobcat Goldthwait was like a pretty big get around the 90s, so, you know, that's something. They're trying something. Also, that floating bodies gimmick was pretty cool. It's pretty well done. But ultimately, the only thing that made the episode scary was Bobcat just being a kind of creepy guy. So, for those reasons, I'm going to have to give The Tale of the Final Wish 2 winks out of 5. Check it out. Especially if you yourself are wrapped up in stories and can't break free of them. And I'm not even just talking fairy tales. I'm talking about modern stories. If you're like you're really into Naruto. Naruto's not even that current anymore. I'm old. It's not Naruto anymore. Let's rewind it back. Jujutsu Kaisen. Let's rewind that back. Maybe a little bit newer. I don't know. I don't follow manga. You get it. But if you're wrapped up with your anime schoolgirls and you want to live in that world and you're avoiding real life people to live in that world, then one of these days an obscure 90s comedian is gonna suck you off in your bedroom. Then let's just let's just end that there. I'll see you guys next time.